and go. This is going to be a really fun, fast-paced presentation. When I first figured out I was going to do this presentation, I was like, wow, I've heard a lot in the Energy Club about oil sands, both cases for and against the oil sands, but I kind of felt like I needed to update my perspective a little bit. So I started doing a little bit of crowdsourcing. I started to ask my friends, my family, my colleagues, essentially anybody who would listen, what oil sands meant to them. And I had a Pandora's box of discussions after that question, as you can imagine. However, I got one question back to me over and over again. And that question was, isn't that an oxymoron? And I had to pause for a little bit. They were like, isn't that like clean coal, fuel-efficient SUVs? I threw in the deep-fried ice cream because I kind of like that one. But it was, a question that I had to really think about. Is that an oxymoron? And what I came up with was two different streams. There's the extraction side of things, and there's the production side of things. From the extraction side, that might be an oxymoron because there's a finite resource. The oil sands is a finite resource. Mother Nature isn't making any more. It's a bit like a battery. And we're extracting it at faster and faster rates as we bring new technology online, as we open new wells. And we're depleting this battery, which will eventually run out in, not 5 years, hopefully 20 years, 50 years, but it's going to be gone eventually. So from the extraction side, no. Perhaps from the production. Now let's pause and look at sustainability here. We've got the natural environment, economic vitality, healthy communities where we meet the needs, not the wants of the present, so we don't compromise the needs of the future. And from the production side of sustainability, you're familiar with some of the challenges that the oil sands faces. I'm not going to list them off right here, but I will say that the oil sands is moving towards being more and more sustainable. And this is what I saw over 3 years as I worked with the Energy Club. More projects are trying to be sustainable, and there's some very disruptive projects that are coming online to help enhance the sustainability of the oil sands. Here you see Suncor's tailing reduction operation, where they're able to take a tailings pond, as you see on the left there, turn it into an area where the mature fine tailings have dropped out and they're able to extract the water out of it and you can walk on it. And top left, you see they've reclaimed that land. So that's a disruptive technology. Another one is Suncor's, I'll say, near net zero discharge of water for in situ operations, where they're recycling 90% of the water that is used for their in situ operations, so that only 10% needs to be pulled out of a different resource. That's a disruptive technology and should be incorporated in more in situ operations. Also, there's some companies looking at the electrification of the oil sands for in situ operations. So instead of using steam to help produce that bitumen, you're going to use electricity to do that. That's pretty cool. Got to watch how the electricity is generated, though. Another one is the toe-to-heel technology, where you're essentially creating a fire underground. Starting a fire requires no steam, therefore no energy to produce that steam, and you're using some bitumen that you might not have otherwise extracted to heat up the bitumen, make it less viscous, allow it to be pulled out through a suction, and the only thing you inject there is oxygen. Also, disruptive would be how oil sands are diversifying their own energy portfolio, how they're trying to balance the sustainability scales a little bit more and bring some renewable energy production into their production of carbon. We've got some risks associated with the oil sands still. We're starting to be known as the Canadian Texas, which is really bad for PR. I don't think you guys like that. As more in situ operations come online, we'll have more water use. Of course, you're familiar with GHGs, but I want to highlight the uncertainty. The uncertainty surrounding policy within Alberta and within Canada. In Alberta, we have a carbon policy. $15 a ton after 100,000 tons approximately, and we have a price on this. We use the money accordingly, but that policy is going to be revamped to some extent as a more broader Canadian policy comes down. And I would like to say that we're going to need some real leadership from you in the audience, from organizations such as Ausley, all of the oil sands corporations, anybody who have a stake in this, we need leadership from to help develop that policy. And we can either let the federal government do it, or we can do a Made in Alberta solution. So I would really challenge the Made in Alberta solution. Now, why does it matter to Alberta? Here we see that Alberta has the highest greenhouse gas emissions out of all provinces in Alberta. So if we're going to start charging for those emissions, it's going to hit Alberta the hardest. In addition, that's not just a economic policy, you're also looking at a social policy and an environmental policy as well. So it's kind of the triple bottom line being ramped into that. Alberta already has a mechanism to spend this money, which is great. It's handed out millions of dollars so far at CCEMC, an Alberta-made solution. So for every $15 we collect for that ton over 100,000 tons, we put it into a fund, and we're able to use this money and help leverage, I like that slide, Bob Mills, I use it too, help leverage what these emissions are providing. They're providing a negative impact on the environment, but we can try and use some positive out of them. We can use this money to enhance research and development in cleaner oil sands operations, energy efficiency, renewable energy. We've got to leverage this money as much as possible to diversify Alberta's portfolio so that when we don't have oil sands anymore, we have something left behind. And really, research and innovation is the best way, I think, to get that done. Top left, you see that Drake Landing community in Okotoks. Bottom right is a solar thermal installation, and Medicine Hat, along with some other partners, got $10 million from CCEMC to do a solar thermal installation similar to that. Now, these are all some of the oil sands companies, which I didn't get permission for their logos, but you see energy in all of those companies, and I would challenge those companies that they need to become energy companies, that they are indeed oil and gas companies right now, moving towards perhaps being fully fledged energy companies, providing electrons, BTUs of heat, and a carbon battery, which is amazing. But really, sustainability is a matter of time, and everything takes time to get there. It is a new to an emerging, maturing field, and we need to allow them time to get where they need to be. But I would challenge you in the audience to watch the clock. Make sure that they are keeping up their end of the bargain, and they'll challenge you right back and say you need to be fully engaged, as Ausley is doing. They're trying to crowdsource some solutions. So it goes both ways, stay involved, and I purposely left this slide above 20 seconds because I'm totally out of time. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the presentations.
Thank you very much, Ryan.